23 years ago today, a warrior named So-called died while fighting in the battlefield. His dead body lay on the battlefield for exactly 10 days after his death. Surprisingly, even after 10 days of his death, his dead body was completely intact. Even then his body did not begin to decompose. A surprising incident happened that after burying him, he suddenly came out of the coffin, i.e. he came alive. This scared everyone present in the country, but later when asked from that eye, how was his experience when he was on the verge of death, he suddenly answered the question. He saw two doors in front of his eyes, one was the door of heaven and the other was of hell. He also saw the door of heaven directed by the Creator to go to. It sounds imaginary and unbelievable, so it is not surprising that if you browse the internet you will find many people who are on the verge of death. Now let's find out how science explains these incredible events. Many times that people start to see their past before they die, i.e. go into flashbacks. Recently an incredible incident happened to a Canadian man who had extensive epilepsy while undergoing brain tests and suddenly had a heart attack resulting in his immediate death. Death occurs even though the person died, but for some time his brain was in a state of operation, i.e. his brain was being examined, and during that time doctors observed that the deceased's brain engaged in activity similar to memory card registration, dreaming just 30 seconds before and after death was involved, and seeing this the doctor can understand the person's lifetime memories 30 seconds before his death and start re-watching, maybe thinking how can the doctors make a statement by recharging this. So let's know that our brain has 86 billion neurons that fire very fast to each other. They communicate with each other and they do not use any words for this communication. 0 hours 2 minutes and 0 neurons communicate through neurosignals, and how doctors can see web shapes in these signals that can be easily observed by Keshev machines, a type of machine that cannot over-signal single neurons because the signals of single neurons are not large enough to detect. The machine can observe the signals of those neurons whose signals are somewhat large, and since the number of neurons capable of giving signals is numerous, the signal changes every millisecond, so if the doctor wants to know the difference results of these signals, then electrodes are needed to object a large amount of signals. 270p electrodes are used to detect that the small parts of our brain are constantly changing, but the webs of large neurons do not change all the time. These 5 types have very different frequencies and MP3. First, know what the web indicates. Alpha web frequency 8 to 12 hard. These work for the connection of our consciousness and subconscious mind. If this alphabet spreads over the rest of the webs, then it makes the brain feel very relaxed in this web. Because of this, we can freely do 2 things at the same time. This web helps us to stay happy. Beta web is number 2. This web has a frequency of 14,000. When we are awake, these webs are most active. It is like self-inostomy and decision-making. Associated with events is the number 3 delta web. The frequency of the web is very low. This web is most active when we are asleep. The surprising thing is that if it spreads over the rest of the webs in this book, we can be asleep for up to 4 months. The ARs associated with our dreams range in frequency from 4 to 8,000 and are most active during our sleep, if at all. Our waking hours become active, then we can't concentrate on anything, we can't learn anything properly. Number 5 gum web has a frequency between 30 and 44,000. It's a type of web that connects everything in our brain as well as everything that we are thinking or thinking is dependent on this web, just like the computer CPU. It can be said that it is the CPU of our brain, and it also reminds us of any memory. The villager was seeing the highest activity of the gamma web on his report card, and the doctor decided that since this person had the highest activity of any other web before his death, it meant that this person had suddenly started seeing past memories. The video goes backwards from present to past memories, like reverse, until it ends, even though this report as own a researcher could not accept. May be right because there is not enough recharge on this subject, so there is currently a lot of research done on people who are on the brink of death but they don't know when they will die, so sometimes the recharge is stopped while recharging, so this research is very slow. Not only humans but also many animals are being recharged. The experiment was first conducted on rats. 9 rats were tested with electrodes implanted after 60 days and then injected with methane to kill the rats. Then the scientists began to monitor the rats and the activity of the electrodes increased significantly just before the rat's heartbeat stopped. The brain's backup memory suddenly became active from the part of the rat's brain that was active, and this experiment confirmed the honesty of the Canadian patient's report card. Not that person also happened to Alida Marani. Anita was suffering from cancer, but she died watching you very closely again. Zero. Surprising thing is that even after coming back from the brink of death, Anita was completely cured, that is, Sehe was suffering from cancer, so she could not remember it, but it is still not possible to explain exactly how this is possible. For so long we have known about the secret of human death, and one of the other reasons for this human death is mosquito.